Welcome to the Rotary Time Show, a public service program presented by the Rotary District 7610 Virginia. Funding for this program is made possible by the generosity of Rotary District 7610 Virginia. On our programs, we talk with Rotarians and community leaders, and we discuss Rotary International and how each level helps local, national, and world communities. I am your host, Rotarian Dr. Deborah Jackson from the Rotary Club of McLean, Virginia. Today, we want to learn what it's like to lead a major school division during a pandemic. To answer this important question, I am delighted that we have Superintendent of Fairfax City Public Schools. Please help me welcome Dr. Phyllis Pajardo.
Thank you, Deborah. Good to see you.
Yeah, Dr. Pajardo, we're just so delighted that we have an opportunity to have this chat with you during this very critical time in the history of schools. We talk about the history of our nation, but in the history of schools, this has created a real serious dilemma or challenge, if you will, for many educators like yourself who are responsible for the learning of others and the development of our teachers and our students. Yeah. So as schools, I guess, around this region are opening up. They're opening their doors virtually. Yes. We thought we'd want to hear, or our listening audience would want to hear firsthand what that looks like, what that feels like for someone who has the ultimate responsibility for opening those doors.
Oh, yes, virtually or not.
Yes. So we're going to go ahead and get started.
All right.
Tell us about Fairfax City Public Schools.
Absolutely, thank you. And again, thank you for having me today and giving me the opportunity to chat with you, fellow Rotarian.
That's right.
So a little bit about Fairfax City Schools. We have 4 schools, 2 elementary schools, 1 middle school, 1 high school. In those schools, we serve 5,000 students. 3,000 are actually from the city of Fairfax. Wow. The other 2,000 are from Fairfax County Public Schools because we have a partnership with Fairfax County Public Schools. A little bit about the 3,000 city students, however. Of those 3,000 students, Dr. Jackson, 1 in 3 of them are a student in poverty. They receive either free or reduced meals. We have about 54% of the students in the city of Fairfax schools, the city students, are students that are either Black, Hispanic, Asian, or of another race or ethnicity. So our schools are quite diverse in ethnicity, and they're quite diverse in terms of economics as well. And as I said, we have about 2,000 students that are from Fairfax County. We have a 40-plus year standing agreement. It's called a school services agreement with Fairfax County Public Schools. So while we are in an incorporated city and our own school division, we have given the authority to Fairfax County Public Schools to actually manage our schools. Okay. We pay a hefty tuition bill of about $50 million a year to Fairfax County Public Schools. Gotcha. So we still have our own superintendent, we have our own school board, okay, and then everything that's curriculum, instruction, and assessment is brought to us by Fairfax County Public Schools. We are responsible for all of the facilities, the facility improvements, and certainly, even though we are paying $50 million to Fairfax County Public Schools, we consult regularly with my colleague, Dr. Scott Brabrand, who actually is a city resident and a Rotarian, as well, and also work very closely with his senior leadership team on decisions. And we have talked more now in the last 6 months than we probably have ever.
I'm sure. What's it like right now to think about the magnitude of what you are leading in terms of all that's going on, the challenges? I just can't imagine. And I'm a former administrator in Fairfax County Public Schools at both the school level and central office. And I wonder about the magnitude of what you are experiencing. You've ever gone through anything like this before in your career?
Nothing comes close
Okay.
to this. I think it is interesting the fact that there have been things throughout our country that our country has faced that has impacted education, such as 9/11. All righty, I wouldn't have ever thought that we would experience such tragedy, concern during that particular period of time. And as I began, and this is now my 39th year in education, nothing has come close to this as we think about the health of our community, the health and safety of our students, the care and feeding of them, the digital divide that I think you and I could certainly be aware of. Because remember, I told you 1 in 3 students in the city of Fairfax is a student in poverty. And when schools had to shut down, as we have done, thinking about how those students are fed, their safety, their well-being, their social and emotional support, and obviously their academic support as well. So it has certainly produced challenges, Dr. Jackson, but I think it's also produced opportunities for us. But the challenges have been, again, unimaginable is the best word I can use.
Talk to us about when you first learned that this was going to occur. Because in education, we know nothing happens overnight.
Right.
We prepare initiatives to roll out.
Right.
We get them approved.
Right.
We kind of check things along the way, in terms of its implementation.
Yes.
Talk to us about that day when you learned that this was going to happen at that moment and up through right now.
Well, I am honestly, when the first case in the city of Fairfax, when someone was tested positive for COVID-19, it looked like it was something to me. This person was an elderly person. They had also traveled, okay? And so in my mind, with the news, it was like, okay, that's going to be something for people who've traveled out of town, who are elderly and more frail. And so I didn't quite get that, yes, this is going to impact schools. When we discovered the case, it was, okay, were there any children in the home? Did this person come in contact with any children? Were there a grandparent? And so again, it wasn't immediately this is going to impact schools. And then as we saw across our nation and across the world,
Right.
oh yes, this is something that we need to be concerned about. So probably first was the health of our students and our staff. And as educators, health is not the first thing we look at. We look at the learning environment. How do we keep it safe and how do we keep things kind of out of the schools? But here we had to look at it as, what is the health? Who might be bringing this into the school? So a check around, okay, should we be looking more closely at visitors? All righty. Should we be containing certain classrooms? Well, what about if a staff person tests positive? And then the next thing that happened was, in fact, just that a staff person tested positive.
Wow.
And from there, we were pretty much on a very quick pace of, and it was also on a quick pace with what was happening with Virginia. So the governor, we made the decision, actually Dr. Brabrand made the decision to close Fairfax County schools a day before the governor announced that Virginia schools would be closed because we were already experiencing positive cases in schools.
So you and Dr. Brabrand, you work very closely together, I imagine, throughout this whole time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We have chatted more. The good news is I like him. He and I are from the same hometown. We went to the same high school, so we've got quite a connection. I enjoy speaking with him. just as I enjoy speaking with you, but our conversations became more businesslike around, again, what was happening with the health, what was happening with the safety, what did we know, who did we know. We were doing almost our own little contact tracing before that was happening. And then it was, well, how long do we need to shut schools down? Because we needed to shut them down, but for how long?
Now, is that a consortium decision? I mean, I know you'd worked with Fairfax, but we have Falls Church, we had Loudoun, Prince William. Was that something, a joint decision that you all got together and discussed? Kind of like snow days.
Right, exactly. Well, like snow days, we actually are making individual decisions, but we are checking with each other. Gotcha. Okay? And so Loudoun may have closed first, if I remember correctly, then Fairfax. And then I believe through our group, because we have two groups. We've got the school divisions that are contiguous in terms of Falls Church, Fairfax, Fairfax City, Loudoun, Arlington, Alexandria. And then I'm part of a larger group that also includes schools in Fauquier, Stratford. And so we got together with the immediate Northern Virginia group and said, what are we doing here? You know, what's happening? How do we make these decisions? And the decisions needed to be made individually based upon the health and safety of the schools and the students and the staff with whom we each oversee. But we have also become our own learning community as superintendents, in talking and saying, what have you found out about this? How are you dealing with this? And began to have weekly phone calls with each other.
Wow.
And then weekly phone calls with our state superintendent of public education.
What's been the toughest moment for you?
Whew. There have been some tough moments. Probably for me, it is just the overarching concern for our community. You know, as educators, we think about the school being the core piece to the community. But actually, I see in this how much it is really a part of the community. And as we began to see people hospitalized, this could be very serious. I mean, I am very happy to be here to report that we don't have cases in our schools.
Wonderful.
Okay, we have not had any kind of significant health or even imagining the death of a student or the death of a staff person related to this at all. But that's been the toughest piece.
Okay, wow. Well, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back and talk more with Dr. Phyllis Pajardo, the Superintendent of Fairfax City Public Schools. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We've been here before, fighting the problems that fight back, because we see opportunities where others see obstacles. We're change makers and problem solvers, uniting over 1 million minds to address complex issues facing communities around the world, including yours. We're working together as partners and professionals, while making friendships that last a lifetime. We're Rotary, and there's no limit to what we can do.
Welcome back to the Rotary Times. We are here talking with Dr. Phyllis Pajardo, the Superintendent of Fairfax City Public Schools. We've had a wonderful conversation about some of the challenges that you have faced as a result of your leadership during a pandemic. And I think a lot of people don't realize the importance of leadership and what leaders bring, because there are certain skill sets that have to be bared upon in order to make some of the decisions that you guys are making in order to make things happen for students, for families, for communities. And you just shared some of the most heart-wrenching areas for me as a former educator, but I know there must have been some uplifting moments. Tell us about one, at least one of those for you.
Absolutely. You know, well, within every challenge are many opportunities. Something that has been uplifting for me is to see the city of Fairfax rally around each other and our students. We have organizations that have and citizens that have come together to deliver food, to actually prepare food, to give food, to sign up and deliver them with their mask and other PPE, on, to see us also working together to bring up a child care center in our city for essential workers so that they can go do what they need to for our community. And that was our mayor, our city council coming together with our school board, with Parks and Recreation, and all rallying around how can we help. So between the food delivery program and even just people wanting to help. People brought food, they packed food, they delivered food, and that occurred about once a month. And so both of those things showed me this esprit de corps of the City of Fairfax community. We have a motto that says, live life connected.
Oh, wow.
And in spite of COVID-19, I see our city living life connected.
Kind of like Rotary.
Yes,
We're gonna get to that a little bit later.
absolutely. Yes, ma'am. I'm ready.
You mentioned food insecurity, but there's another group of young people that people are very much concerned about, those that are at risk, those that have special, more specialized care and attention. How are you ensuring that those young people get what they need?
Yes. Again, as two educators sitting here, and we've had the great pleasure of working with students that could teach us and that did teach us. And then we have the great honor of working with students who had some disabilities who we, as educators, were able to have as a great equalizer. So right now for our school division and with Fairfax County schools, we know that a top priority is our students with disabilities. So those students are prioritized and will be the first students to return in person when we have in-person instruction.
Wonderful.
There are just some things that do not convey well through the virtual platform. And there are some learners who have more difficulty learning through the virtual platform. So we still have case managers, our special educators working closely with students and families, still checking in on them, still working in small groups. Even you can have a virtual small group as opposed to a large group, like a large meeting that we would have, such as our Rotary clubs as well. And then they can see the students. They can still use the old-fashioned, let me call the parent.
Nice.
All right. And we've had some visits to our families as well. What do you need? How can we support you? So never losing the human touch.
Wonderful. You talked about ensuring that all students have access.
Yes.
Let's talk about technology.
Yes.
And I'm sure you have, Fairfax City is a relatively well-to-do area. But you do have pockets that might not have the kind of access or infrastructure that's there for them to be able to take advantage of. How do you handle something like that?
Well, the good news is we actually had done some pre-work on this. I didn't think 3 years ago when I came to the city as the superintendent, I asked our mayor and city council, first I asked our school board to invest in having our middle school to have one-to-one devices for every kid at middle school. Who would have thought that that investment 3 years ago that our board put forward and approved and our council put forth and approved I was doing it because kids, we live in this technological world now, right? Okay? And so giving kids that access and giving them, kind of closing the gap for them. So with Fairfax County also having one-to-one at high school, Dr. Jackson, our middle schools and our one middle school and our high school had the devices. We already had
ready.
the devices for the students in the hand, and then they were in their hands.
Wonderful.
Okay, so then we had to begin looking at elementary. And then elementary is a little bit of a different animal, in terms of it. But we were able to rally between families indicating that they had their own device. We were still able to get the devices into the hands of students who did not normally have them at home, because for a middle and high school student, you're taking your device back and forward, just like you would a textbook or your backpack. But for elementary, you're using the device in the school. And so we had laptop pickup. Okay, we did have to buy internet hotspots to be able to give to families, and we had to prioritize that, in terms of it, because you can have a device, but if you do not have an internet plan, then the device is not as successful.
Yeah.
And so, as I said, an investment from 3 years ago with the laptops for all middle school kids really turned out to be a great investment for us.
Leadership. Real leadership.
Well,
One
thank
of
you.
those strengths has to be foresight.
Well, thank you.
Being able to look ahead. Great.
Thank you.
Let me stop now and go back for a second. I can't let you out of here without you having an opportunity to tell us about who Dr. Pajardo is as Rotarian Phyllis Pajardo.
Yeah.
What club are you a part of? And talk about some of the initiatives, some of the things your club is doing, because I know they must be doing some amazing work. I hear a lot about them.
They are. They are. So I am in the club that's the Fairfax Club.
Okay.
Our president is Barry Gordon. He just has come in as the new president. I have been in the club now for 3 years.
Okay.
I sought out the club. I knew about Rotary. I didn't know you had to be invited. I learned that, but I said, I am part of, I'm overseeing a school or set of schools. You are, I understand that you are an important part of our community. So I reached out and said, I'd like to be a part, had someone to sponsor me, and the Rotary Club of Fairfax has been phenomenal, has been a phenomenal partner with us. A little bit earlier, I shared something about the food delivery and an organization called A Place to Stand that supports our 4 schools and families who are food insecure. The Rotary just earlier this week, gave them through the Rotary Foundation a $5,000 check.
Wow.
Which is going to cover food delivery for 400 or 500 families next week in the city of Fairfax.
Amazing.
Amazing. I can't thank them enough. And we had a very generous donor in our club who gave to our foundation, and then the foundation in turn. We have also since matched that, and I believe that the club has raised almost $3,000 now, in addition to the $5,000 that they've already given.
Wow.
Additionally, our club has a new program. We will get it started on Monday. It's about student leaders. We're going to recognize quarterly student leaders at Fairfax High School. For me, for the first time, I am going to hear students speak about living in the community and what that means to them. Because the Rotary, I don't know if you're a Rotary, it is a more seasoned folks in our community. Don't have a lot of 25-year-olds or less, in it.
I think that's most clubs.
Right, and so to hear from the future is going to be great, and that's a new member that's brought that from his club in Connecticut or New Hampshire.
Oh, okay.
And then we also work with, we have something called our Constitution program, and to the middle schools, we give a Constitution booklet, because in civics, I know you were, if I remember correctly, you're
former civics
former
teacher.
civics, and so it's important for students to learn about the Constitution. And then normally we also give dictionaries to every student at the 5th grade. elementary,
Elementary.
school. So our Rotary is a great partner. I am so proud to be a member of the Fairfax Club of Rotary.
Thank you for being an ambassador for that club for us here today.
Absolutely.
We certainly have enjoyed hearing all the things that you're hearing, or your struggles, those things that make you smile, which
Yes.
you are now, and that's when you've been talking about Rotary. But we know that there's a lot more to do.
Yes.
And for our viewing audience, if you could just, in one sentence, one thing you would like to leave the audience with before we leave.
So I would like to say thank you. I would like to say to the audience, this pandemic and where the times that we're living in are just unparalleled.
Yeah.
We need a little patience. We need a little understanding, because we're figuring some things out, and every time we figure something out, there is a new dynamic that is entered into the conversation. So I ask for patience and understanding.
Very good. Thank you. Funding for this program is made possible by the generosity of Rotary District 7610, Virginia. For the Rotary Times program, I am your host, Rotarian Dr. Deborah Jackson from the Rotary Club of McLean, Virginia. You are welcome to join us at any point in time for either lunch, breakfast, or dinner. You can find a club near you by looking us up on the internet. Remember, our time is your time, and it's always time well spent. Please join us for our next program as we continue to celebrate Rotary's 115 years of service above self.